Hey, I'm Stephanie Todd, the host of ERCx Chats. Excited about the session we're about to have today. Here with Matt Watkinson, best-selling author of The 10 Principles Behind Great Customer Experiences, now The Grid.
The great thing is you don't need to predict the future if you're the one who's actually making it.
So when do you think the next book will be something people can grab and read themselves?
Book 3, as yet unnamed, so we'll just call it book 3.
Sure.
Is out next spring, assuming we have a name by then.
Okay.
We probably won't come out without a name, so no pressure. But yeah, that's what we're working on at the moment is...
Okay. And is it a capstone? You should read the first 2 to lead into this, or someone can pick this up, read it, and not have to have the background of the other 2 and work backwards?
Oh yeah, they're all independent. Yeah, you could just read this, or you could... Yeah, in fact...
Would they expect to read something totally different than what you've written before?
It's a little different from the first 2.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm excited about it. I think of the 3, I think this is probably the one that has the greatest potential to change how people look at the world around them.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's always an aspiration of any author, is that you want to write something that changes how people think or makes decisions. But I think this one is probably potentially has the greatest potential impact to change how people think and make decisions and see the world. So I'm really excited about that. I think also, I've got 10 years more professional experience writing than the first book, so it should be a lot better written. Mm-hmm. That's always the thing. Like, some people, they read The Grid and then they go, "Oh, I'm going to go back and read your first book," and I'm kind of like, please don't do that. It's like just, I've kind of moved on a little bit in my. It's just not as well written. Yeah, I mean, I still love it, but still kind of proud of it. But I think you're kind of your own worst critic as an author. And obviously I hate all my own writing anyway, because it's a bit like hearing your voice on a answer phone or something. You're like, ugh.
It's very rare. It's very, very rare if I ever watch actually any of these ERCx chats. I usually don't watch them.
Yeah. I don't want to hear my own voice. I don't want to read my own writing.
So if you tie the third one with the unprecedented world, which is what that word has been used more times, I think, in the last year than it's ever been used before in the history of time. But if you look at how businesses are preparing for who knows what's up next, what's coming next, and tie that to a lot of our audience, which is like customer experience professionals and what you wrote in your first book. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you have any insights on, us riding gorillas, whatever that may be, kind of future tense, like where we're headed?
We'll all be riding gorillas in the future. I'm putting a firm bet on that. Okay. Yeah.
Because I look at it and I think we still have heavy on voice. And we're moving into digital, we're moving into social. We have these other channels we're supporting customers in. Mm-hmm. But 20 years ago, chat wasn't new, and it's still something that's not fully embraced. Like, I look at things and think, okay, futuristic, we have chips in our brains and we don't even have to Google anything. But realistically, in the next 10 years for customer experience, like, what do you see, or what can businesses do to try to prevent or manage the risk or the unprecedented world that they're headed into or already a part of?
Yeah, okay, so the way that I think about that stuff is that when you're in a situation that's changing a lot, the thing that you don't want to do is ask what's going to change. You want to ask what's not going to change. Mm-hmm. And then as long as you're grounding your decision making on the things that aren't going to change, then I think you're in a better spot, right? So what's not going to change? Well, our brains aren't really going to change. Like, our psychological makeup isn't going to change that much. Our evolutionary heritage, which has played out over millennia, isn't going to change that much. What do we know psychologically makes for a great experience? Well, we know that we pay disproportionate attention to things that clash with our expectations. Mm-hmm. So we know that what people are going to remember from an experience is something that's going to be below what we deem to be adequate from an expectation point of view, or we know, or is much better than what we anticipated, and we know that people aren't going to really remember or notice anything that conforms with our existing kind of mental models. And we also know psychologically that bad has much more of an impact on us than good. So the first thing that we can say is, well, a really simple thing that we should be doing is making sure that we're keeping up with our customers' expectations, which might not have anything to do with us, It might come from our rivals or whatever, and that we should be setting better expectations. So any opportunity in the future to set clearer, better expectations, provide people with more timely feedback, that kind of stuff, communicate more clearly, is going to improve their experience on a psychological level. We also know that we like to conserve energy in case we need it for something. That's kind of evolutionary imperative. Whatever is kind of easiest tends to win. Yeah. So we know that if we're systematically removing effort from the experience, assuming it's something particularly that people don't want to do or isn't like a source of great joy for them, which is 99.99% of things, then we're making it better. And you see that with Domino's and their strategy of just like ordering a pizza so brainless that they now have a 0-click app, like a countdown timer goes, and unless you intervene, you're getting your pizza, and you can order through literally every single kind of possible channel, and those channels now account for more of their business than over the counter or on the phone. So we know. What's
funny is the person who we had on originally, the art and design, that was him.
Oh, that was him?
Yeah.
Oh, right. Amazing. It's almost like we planned it, but we didn't.
Yeah.
So, we know if we're making it easier, we're making it better. We know that if we're taking stress out of things, we're making it better because we don't like stress. So that's like error prevention, reducing kind of choice paralysis, that kind of stuff. We're making it better. We know that if we improve the sensory experience, we're making it better. We know if we improve the social aspect of things, because we're a social species, then we're making it better. So back to the first book. If you're just applying these principles in a kind of systematic way, you are literally improving the experience, and that should be your starting point. It's not like, should we have a chatbot? Should we have a omni-channel thing? Should we do this? It should be, those things are means to an end, and the end should be hitting one of those psychological principles on the head. Ease, stress reduction, control, social pleasure, task completion, how it reflects the customer's identity and values and that kind of thing. These are like psychological principles that just aren't going to change. So
it goes back to the root cause of solving something to solve that versus just trying to layer on top of it. Exactly.
Like start from what you know is going to make it better, and then work outwards, rather than trying to like latch onto a trend or something like that, or be driven by the technology or what you see other people doing. Like, one of the reasons that I really like principles is that if you want to win big, if you really want to change the game, if you really want to do something that is impactful, you can't be innovating in response to your customer. You need to innovate on their behalf. You need to say, here's an idea that we've got that we think is great. Because as soon as you're just looking at the data or benchmarking against your rivals, you're in the slipstream. You're not out in front. So
it's like Henry Ford inventing a vehicle instead of just adding more horses.
Exactly. Exactly. So what you want to do is, like, principles allow you to do that in a structured way. If you're saying, for example, what are all the ways that we could strip 50% of the effort out of doing this, and that's your task, you're giving someone a very clear problem to solve, and you're telling them what success looks like as well in so doing. If you start saying, should we have a chatbot? Should we have a kiosk? What are our rivals doing? Then you're being forced into playing by their rules, and you're never going to win that game. So that's how I look to the future. And I also know that from a pragmatic point of view, I mean, even parking the psychological side of things, there are things that people always respond to. People always respond to discretionary effort. Like, if you can create a feeling in your customer of, wow, they didn't have to do that, but they did, through just a little bit of discretionary effort or a little bit more attention to detail, then that's always going to work. Like, we always respond to that. Thoughtfulness. People always respond to thoughtfulness. So It's really that there are actually very simple things that if we just think about how we want to be treated as a person ourselves, or how you treat a friend, or how you treat somebody if you were hosting them in your home, then there are just very simple pragmatic things that you can do if you're able to simplify things down that allow you to step outside of all of this noise and confusion about what the future's going to look like. The great thing is you don't need to predict the future if you're the one who's actually making it, right? As a lot of entrepreneurs or kind of luminaries have said in the past. So, I think get busy creating it, and then you don't need to predict it or worry about it. And the best way to approach that task is to be driven by the things that we know aren't going to change, and typically how our minds work.
It goes back to all the hosting, kind of how you were raised, and then back to how do you make it a little bit different and distinctive where it's your own culture is bleeding through to your customers is one big kind of vision overall of how the product is used, how they've had the experience.
Yeah, totally. And I think that one of the challenges is I think that most people's idea of customer centricity is we give our customers what they want or what they ask for, like in a very simplistic sense. The problem is that what customers want and what they ask for is going to be the same of every brand or service provider in the category, which is why they're all in the same category. They all do the same thing.
Yeah.
So if you go and you say to your customers, what do you want? And we'll give it to you, then you're going to end up making or producing or creating the kinds of experiences or products or services that cause you to converge with your rivals rather than stand out from them.
Yeah.
Which, comes back to this idea of do we innovate on behalf of the customer or do we innovate in response to them? Arguably, you should say, well, we're not going to really be customer-centric at all. We're going to be brand-centric. Like, we're going to take what our customers, their wants and needs, but our focus has got to be on executing on them in a way that looks and feels distinctive and like it could only come from us, because that's how we build stronger mental availability in the customer's mind. That means that when a need arises, they're going to come to us versus those other people. And that, back to the earlier thing that we were talking about, that I think is kind of the Achilles heel for how a lot of companies approach this customer experience stuff, which is it's kind of mechanical and it's kind of outside in, and there's not enough consideration for doing that in a way that feels distinctive and branded.